Hello and welcome to another PSP. Today we are previewing the season for our number 4 ranked team per your pre-season survey. It is the Joinville Capybaras, of course, owned by our good friend Hideki. Last year, this team finished in 4th place in the regular season, going 13-9, and lost in absolutely heartbreaking fashion to the eventual champion Mike Copeland in the LGCS by just half a point, just a fraction of a point there. Ended up being the difference between the champion making it to the finals and getting knocked out in the CS. So, Hideki here with his new team name, of course, will be looking to sort of rebound in a new season and build on that fantastic finish last year. Talking about the ins and outs, we saw not a crazy number of people coming in and out, but in both cases, pretty good players going in both directions. We'll start with the ins, beginning with Brendan Donovan, who came over, along with Ivan Herrera, a couple of former, and in Herrera's case, current Cardinals. The big ad for the offseason is Jackson Merrill, who came over in one of the bigger one-for-one trades we had going. Can't remember if that was a one-for-one. We'll double-check there. And then Noah Shanuel, along with Owen Murphy, also came over. So a good few players, even some important minor leaguers, and a guy like Murphy, who we'll touch on later. On the outs, finally freed from the burden of Jordan Lawler. We saw him head out via trade, along with Sean Burke, Taylor Ward, and Ramon Laureano, who had a pretty solid end to the season last year for Hideki. We also saw a trio of pitchers in Kevin Gausman and Framber Valdez as some stable back end and, frankly, top of the rotation guys, as I say, between Gausman and Valdez, and Luke Weaver, who has been a solid bullpen piece for the last couple years. It was not a one-for-one trade. Going back there, that was, of course, the one that involved Gausman and Valdez heading out the door. But when you're getting Jackson Merrill back, you certainly understand where Hideki is coming from there. This is a lineup I like a lot. Let's dive into it right away, starting off, of course, with catcher Will Smith, ranked at number 93 on the top 1,000. We'll start off this group. Jonathan Aranda, who had a fantastic year in Tampa Bay, will be looking to build on that as he plays first base here for the Capybaras. Jorge Polanco, and after his really fantastic postseason, is at second base, with Manny Machado ranked at number 59 at third base. You all know the name at number 3 ranked on the list, Bobby Witt Jr. He is the shortstop for this team, and Ketel Marte, ranked at number 31, is sort of the flex infielder. Moving to the outfield, we do have left to right Brendan Donovan, Jackson Merrill, and that guy Mike Trout. Hey, he's pretty good. Jackson Merrill does rank at 45 on the top 1,000. In the flex outfield spot, we do have Joe Adele after his 37 homer campaign last year. And in the utility spot, we will see comeback player extraordinaire George Springer. In kind of that utility spot, a solid group on the bench as well between Max Muncy, Ivan Herrera, and Noah Shanuel. So a really solid lineup that I like a lot. I obviously love any lineup being led by Bobby Witt Jr. because he is so incredible. He contributes in so many different ways between his speed, his power, his hit tool. Basically, no matter what he's doing, he's finding a way to contribute from a fantasy standpoint. And at just 25 years of age, I think we can expect him kind of as a staple of this lineup for the distant future. There are a couple of interesting cases, I think, looking at this next season in Springer and Trout. Trout coming into every fantasy season, it's a question of what are we going to get. He was healthier last year, still not, completely healthy, but the numbers had dipped quite a bit from, obviously, Mickey Mantle, Ken Griffey Jr. comparison, Mike Trout levels. He's moving back into center field, and I think we saw this in a guy like Buxton, who in 2024, they basically decided to just DH him to try and keep him healthier, and it actually really messed with his hitting. He had a lot of trouble hitting when he wasn't playing center field regularly. Mike Trout kind of forced the Angels' hand and said, hey, I want to play center field. So you wonder if that might help him a little bit this upcoming year, just in terms of, getting back on track to that, Hall of Fame caliber player we know he is. Tremendous upside and stability in guys like Machado and Will Smith. You know the numbers they're going to put up every year. They are always so good, especially Machado in an even year. We love to see that. And Marte, who has, I think, quietly become one of the best players in baseball. He just simply is, and comfortably the best second baseman. I after this trade happened, I talked to Hideki after he acquired Brendan Donovan. I said, dude, you've got two of probably the 5 or 6 best second basemen, which I am always surprised by how shallow that position is from a dynasty baseball standpoint. So having both of those assets is really good in the event one of them go down. And neither one is even playing second base because he's got Jorge Polanco there as well, who will probably lose that eligibility after this year as he is, obviously moving over to first base for the Mets. So that is another just good bit of flexibility in case Aranda kind of struggles in that second year. And I think Jackson Merrill is going to be incredible for this lineup. Definitely a bit of a down year last year. He took a step back from that, phenomenal rookie campaign in 2024 when he put up close to 560 points. Last year, just 386, but something I think to lean on is there was just a 0.2 difference in the fantasy points per game, and in part that was, of course, because he missed about 40 games compared to what he played in 2024. So hopefully with a fully healthy season, we should see Jackson Merrill return to those kind of numbers and probably be a regular contributor at the top of Hideki's lineup. I like it a lot. There are some interesting questions I think to keep an eye on. Joe Adell is another one I didn't remember. Oh my goodness. Joe Adell, where did that season come from kind of out of nowhere? How repeatable is it? But this is a lineup that I like a lot. I think it will carry him a long way. And there is, as I mentioned, some really good players on the bench to kind of spell in case any injuries happen. Particularly in a guy like Herrera, who I think is, again, probably a top 5 or 10, probably top 10, catcher from a dynasty perspective. If Will Smith does get hurt, if he, needs some time off, if he's not playing regularly, a guy like Herrera can step in and really keep the balance throughout this lineup. Moving over the pitching staff, it's a really interesting group that I like a lot and I think should be fantastic this year. Logan Gilbert does lead things off. We all know how good he is. He kind of took it to another level last year. He's currently ranked at number 34 on IBW's Top 1000. Ranger Suarez is at number 2, with Chris Bubich at the number 3, Kodai Senga at number 4, and newly acquired Cub Edward Cabrera at number 5. Some other guys that will likely get into the mix throughout the year. Michael Wacha will almost certainly get starts. He's kind of always out there and has really put in phenomenal work since he's come over to the Royals. And Jack Dreyer out in Los Angeles with the Dodgers, I think, is likely to get some starts this year, along with a guy like Ryan Nelson, who we can probably see get some on, weeks where starts are maybe not happening as consistently or as much. There's another name who's likely to feature significantly in the rotation, but we'll be talking about them once we get down to the next section. So just keep in mind there is one more member of this rotation that will probably be a pretty serious factor. The bullpen is something I really like. This is maybe my favorite bullpen we've looked at yet. It has depth. It has, I think, a lot of quietly really great guys. And it has, all the stuff you want to see in a bullpen. Leading things off, Edwin Diaz. Everyone knows how good he is, and he's probably getting even more save opportunities this year with the Dodgers. So he is sure to rack up, well over 400, probably close to 450 points from the relief pitcher position this year. Jeremiah Estrada, who came over via trade last year, has been great in kind of a 7th inning role for San Diego. Brad Keller, who I think was one of the more deft, I believe, pickups during last year and held. He was picked up last year and held. He was so good out of the bullpen last year, and the Phillies signed him to, for a relief pitcher, a relatively lucrative deal. I think hoping that he can kind of act as that setup man for Duran for them. So he's, I think, likely to get a lot of holds and pitch a lot of innings. And then, of course, Tyler Rogers, you all know how he throws. Send the reaction pic to the chat. He is so consistent and can throw so many innings, just in part because of that angle that he throws from. A few other guys to keep in mind: Pete Fairbanks, who will be closing for Miami, and Tony Santiellan? I'm not quite sure how you said that name. Tony out in Cincinnati. A couple more names to keep a close eye on. Jared Koenig, too, in Milwaukee. This is a really great bullpen that I like a lot. Also, Reed Detmers. It'll be interesting to see if he remains in a bullpen role where he was fantastic last year, or if the Angels kind of try and push him back into the rotation. Either way, he should be a solid contributor for Hideki. Personally, if I had my my druthers, I would say keep him in the bullpen. I think he's much more valuable there, certainly from Hideki's perspective. But the Angels will probably be looking for some innings out of him as a starter. So we'll see what he looks like. If he does make that return back to the rotation. Overall, love the pitching staff. You get consistency and I think reliability and upside out of guys like Suarez and Gilbert. Senga, boy, we're all, I think, hoping for that bounce back again after what was just a phenomenal, fantastic 2023. Injury-plagued 2024, and he pitched some last year, but not a ton. Only 22 starts there, and only about 16.6 fantasy points per game when he did pitch. So hopefully a bolstered Mets team overall will kind of raise the tide of his ship as well, and he can kind of get at least close back to that form. Logan Gilbert is like a perfect pitcher. He's incredible. A bit of a down year last year compared to his 2024, but it's hard not to have a down year when you start 33 games and have a 3.23 ERA. Racked up 790 points in 2024, over 600 each of the last 2 years, just 483 last year. So definitely a bit of a down season from Gilbert, but there was, I think, a lot of luck stuff involved in that. And after such a significant workload the year before, I think that definitely weighed on him as well. 25 games started last year, so I think it's likely that he will be able to kind of ramp back up to that level that we saw beforehand. And then Edward Cabrera, I think, is a fascinating piece to keep an eye on here. What will he look like after his trade over to the Cubs? Miami does such a good job of developing these guys. You always wonder what going to like a real winning environment like Chicago. I mean, they're expected to either win or be certainly near the top of the NL Central this year. So kind of what will his season look like? And Chris Bubic is another name to keep a really close eye on. Similarly to, let's see, who was I saying this about earlier? To Senga, I think Bubic is looking to be on a team that sort of bounces back and kind of gets even better. Solid year last year, a little bit injury plagued, only 20 games started, but he put up at about 21.4 points per game when he did start. So really solid numbers when he was out there. And I think if we can see a full season out of him, we're looking at, a really top starting pitcher. Let's talk about those prospects and possible promotions. Number 1, both ranks on the prospect list very highly at number 9, and also on the top 1,000 at number 73. It's Trey Savage. We all learned about him last year during the playoffs. He has got just an absolutely elite fastball and a really great slider. Kind of his calling card is that unique arm angle and release point from way up top, almost at that 12 o'clock position. He has obviously done it on the big stage, but I thought something really interesting that Foolish Baseball said kind of in a video is just how different playoffs and regular season can be, and particularly for guys who come up and perform really well in the playoffs. What does it look like over 162? The playoffs are so adrenaline fueled and such a sprint. And what does this guy kind of look like over 162? And does the uniqueness and sort of novelty of that arm angle start to wear off as people see him more? Personally, if I had to bet, I would say no. I think he is a really, really great pitcher. I don't think we're going to see quite the level we did in the playoffs. That I agree with, but I think he is going to be, an easy top 5 pitcher in this rotation throughout the year. Although I think he is starting the year on the injured list, he should be set to, make 25 plus starts for the Blue Jays this year. So he is someone who will certainly factor into that starting rotation. Someone who will factor into the outfield mix as well is Owen K. Casey. Kind of a fun note here, Edward Cabrera came over to the Cubs from the Marlins. He is on the Joinville Capybaras. Owen Casey went from the Cubs to the Marlins in that deal. So he's got both sides of that trade. He's winning either way. Owen Casey obviously is going to get a lot more playing time this year, given the open path to that he has in Miami that he didn't necessarily have in Chicago with the outfield that they have. He's a very patient hitter, great eye. He's got a little bit of a concerning hit tool, so kind of a classic 3 true outcome guy. And something I think just to keep in mind with a guy like Casey, high risk sluggers in terms of like the strikeout stuff. They often need a little bit of a longer leash. It takes them a little bit longer to adjust to the major league level rather than, sort of the hit tool first guys. So, I would say if he doesn't come out of the gates hot, even if he is struggling through, maybe May, June, July, don't give up just yet on Owen Casey. Everyone keep an eye on him because I think the longer he spends at the big leagues, the better accustomed he's going to get, and the power plays at him at the big league level for sure. The third prospect I'll mention is another Owen. It's Owen Murphy. He's ranked at prospect number 114. He's a low velo guy who kind of misses bats. And just great fastball shape and two really plus breaking ball pitches. He had a 1.19 ERA in high A after returning from TJ last year. So obviously in the lower minors, but it does sound like there's a chance he gets some time in the Braves rotation this year, likely as a later call-up. And I think he's just a fascinating pitcher to look at. Those low velo guys, I think, can tend to pitch a few more innings. And considering how valuable innings can be, that's something that could be really valuable. Look, the fastball velocity is not what you typically look for in a prospect, but 1.19 ERA is something you look for in a prospect. So if he's able to just kind of paint those corners and like I said, 2 really plus breaking pitches to kind of deceive hitters, I think that is all stuff that sort of indicates he has a solid future ahead of him in the Braves. We are coming to the projection, and this is something I have been dreading. I put all these sheets together, and I realized, oh my goodness, I went chalk from last year. I put all the same people together going into the playoffs, and I decided I had to make a change. And again, Hideki, you're going to be doubted going into this year. I do have the Joinville friendly Capybaras just barely missing out on the playoffs. I will firmly stamp my projection as the number 7 team. I think it is going to be as close as it gets. I have them going 12-9 along with another couple teams. And just a little concern. Guys like Springer, what does he look like? He bounced back in such a massive way, but he probably won't hit that level again. Trout, what are we getting from him? If I have to pick one of that like really core top 4, I think that Hideki's team is the one I worry about perhaps more than the other 3. And I am 100% going to be proven wrong because those of you who, of course, remember, he was, I think, voted in sort of the preseason survey as the most likely team to finish with the worst record, and then, of course, finished 4th and nearly made it to the finals. So I fully expect this prediction to be wrong. I had to go for something, and at some point, you just got to trust the numbers, and with the lineup that I really like, but there are just a couple that I like more, and similarly with the pitching staff. So I do have this team just outside the playoffs at number 7. It is going to be very close. Those 6 spots is not a lot, man. As I'm putting these sheets together, and I'm getting to teams, 8 and 9, and I'm like, boy, this really looks like a playoff team. There are only 6 spots, so it is going to be very close. I'm very excited to see what the season holds. Hideki quietly, I think, was one of the best quote-unquote waiver warriors of the season last year. He did a really good job picking up players and kind of keeping an eye on who was hot and finding hot streaks from guys. So that, I think, is also something to keep an eye on just as he's adding players. How much they are able to contribute to his team after he did such a good job with that last year. So that is our number 4 ranked team. We'll be back tomorrow with number 3 as we enter the top 3. Opening day is right around the corner. Can't wait to get there soon. Talk to y'all then.